The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Filmvold 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.
The McLaren Senna GTR, a 4-litre twin-turbo V8, pushing over 800 PS of horsepower, and it's carrying, when it's at its optimum, 1,000 kilos of downforce. That car, round here at Silverstone, if Thomas Garcia gets an absolutely lightning start, he will pull away from Vargas Sim Racing and blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much of a gap Vargas Sim Racing will leave to the hypercar class, because it is just the one car of the hypercar class of Omicron Sim Racing. So I'm not expecting too much of a gap between hypercar and LMP2.
Green.
And we've got the green flag, so we will be racing here, Alex, and caught me out a little bit off guard, and straight away it looks like the number 2 in the LMP2 class of Max Scholten has a little looks down into Abbey, but he's going to have to slot in behind him. Marcel Chinchek will be able to hold on to the lead of the LMP2 class for now.
Yeah, that was a very, very quick look, and looks like Roland Zux has got up the inside. Now that was a nice move going through into Village as they go into the loop, and now they'll come through Aintree. So this, and already Thomas Garcia has got at least a 10-car lead over Marcel Chinchek from Vargas Sim Racing. Max Scholten, Roland Zux now back down, is showing in third position. Turn lower from Juices Motorsport rounds out the top top 5 overall, but fourth in LMP2 as they filter their way through. And you can just see how hard they are pushing already as they're now going down the national pit straight and heading into Copse Corner. And the amount of commitment from Thomas Garcia going through Copse was absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, you talked about that 1,000 kilos of downforce that can come through. Thomas Garcia knows that this is his chance to check out, to pull away, and he is giving it absolutely everything. We're also seeing, I think that is David Kolaksai on the back of the 007 Pro Sim car right on the tail as they make their way out of Chapel onto the Hangar Straight and could potentially have a look down towards Stowe Corner. He'll move the car to the inside, but he's not going to be able to have the confidence on the brakes this early on to look for a move and slots him behind.
Yeah, I just saw a brief onboard from Roland Zux there, just trying to close on Max Scholten. But yeah, David Kalasai right in the slipstream of the 007 Pro Sim Racing car, the Danish crew. So that's going to be rather interesting. So in many respects here, the times coming in, Daniele Primaverda has a comfortable lead over Jordi San Andres and the number 51 crew. That is the WOSR iZone performance car. And that now is about 10 seconds. And it seems like that there was a slight incident between...
Oh, we've got a bit of a battle further down, actually, through Club Corner onto the start-finish straight. That's Eros Masquili and the Pescara AED, Eros Masquili and the Pescara ADG, and Bart Slobodzian in the 66 Volante racing car. And Eros Masquili managed to find a way through.
Yeah, that's very much the case. And it's just one of those things where it's going to be rather interesting in finding what is going on with that at the moment. And this, also, I think I've just heard about an incident between a couple of cars at the moment. Some of the drivers now really trying to get their way through, and
Vidukton going for a move, and they're actually trying to defend at the same time from Magnus Berggreen while passing Adam Sarej, or pardon me, they pass the 177. Adam Sarej follows through in the McLaren 720S of Vidukton and the 41, and the 41 is of Mugen Sim Racing, climbing up the field slowly but surely.
Yeah, very much the case. So the drivers now really started, and already Thomas Garcia hitting the 145 fours, and he's doing an absolutely brilliant job at the moment, Youssef. This is going to be rather interesting, but now I'm just going to keep an eye on where is the number 10 of Pin Sim Drillers Esports, Martin Hemmingson. He's up into P9. That's correct. We knew the speed was there. He's been running in the 1:48.6s, but the reason for that is that he's had all this traffic to deal with.
Jeff Closer had a moment. He tried to follow Martin Hemmingsen through on the B32 racing car, but he had his nose completely chopped off into Farmer Corner. So Jeff Closer will lose a position to Felipe Barreto in the 57 car, and he's right on the tail of the said 57 car as they make their way on to the Wellington straight. But yeah, as you mentioned, Martin Hemmingsen absolutely flying. He's 14 seconds off the back of Thomas Garcia, and he is not going to be giving Thomas Garcia any moment to breathe at all.
No, Thomas Garcia definitely not having his cake and eat it. Even though we are sort of getting into the first sort of real moments of this race, Yusuf, and that's where things can be rather undecided as to who's going to be where and at what particular point.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye as well on David Kolaksai in the Mugen Sim Racing car, still close to the back of the Pro Sim car, 007. Not quite sure who's at the wheel, and you can see in the back of your shot Martin Hemmingsen closing in at a rate of knots.
Yeah, very much the case. And now this is where it just can't really, you can't put anything between them at the moment. And this is where the drivers really are starting to earn their penance in some respects, as Daniele Primavera is running rather quickly in the lead of GTE at the moment. Hemmingsen has got past Felipe Barreto in the number 57 Ramada Motorsports car. That's the all Portuguese crew. So that's where the drivers now can really do their level best to try and push forward. But he's got the number 51 of WOSR iSport. Yeah, it's just one of those things where you can't sort of see how these drivers can move forward in that sort of respect there.
I'm riding on board with Jeff Closer, and he is looking left, right, inside, outside, over and under, trying to find any way past the B32 racing car, and he's going to have a go round the outside of Brooklyn. Surely not. Has to slot in behind B32 for now. Gives a little bit of a love tap, and that might just let him squeeze up the inside of Luffield. Would be a bit of a push and pass, but he makes it work, and I don't think he will mind how he got through, just that he is through and now has a bit of clear air to work with.
Yeah, that's always the way where with the, having that sort of clear air really does help, because if you're behind another vehicle, the aerodynamics will be sort of reduced, let's say. It's very much if you're in the air wake of a car behind you, so it's where the drivers can really, really push like crazy. They'll be able to fuel save as well. Some of the drivers will do that down certain parts, down the hangar and Wellington Straight. But you have that aero imbalance. If that car's not got any of its assists on, that could be a really, really key moment. A car could have a wobble going into the braking zone, say for instance Stowe, maybe into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. There's so many different permutations of aerodynamic inefficiency that the teams are having to combat. And when the rain is set to come, the aerodynamics will basically go out of the window, and it's about pure mechanical traction for these teams and drivers.
Yep, and then it all comes down to who's got the better setup for the car, and it's something that I'm very used to commentating on and talking about when I talk about a sprint series in F1. The fact, that's a spin from Michael Bernberg in the 1.66. He lost the back end coming out of Cobb's corner for ID SimSport, so he's going to drop down the order, and it will actually release via Ducton, who are running right on the back of the ID SimSport car.
Oh, and that is just a few moments into the race, and it's very much the case there, Yusuf, where drivers cannot really afford to make early mistakes, but there's still quite a lot of this race still to go. You can make one mistake now, it won't cost you as badly as what might do, like say, a 2 to 3 hours before the conclusion of the race itself.
Yeah, very, very true indeed. Also keeping an eye on Martin Hemmingsen still. He's just over 14 seconds behind Thomas Garcia. He's now up into P5. So just Roland Zirks, Max Scholten and Marcel Chinchik to overtake. And then there won't be any cars between himself and his fellow hypercar class rival.
Yeah. And one of the things is that Thomas Garcia has started to get towards back marker traffic, and he's now coming through onto the start-finish line here at the Wing Complex. It's one of the Porsches he's just got past. That looks to be a DIS car that he's just got past. He's gone flying into Abbey. The car nearly drifts to the left-hand side. He kept it absolutely pinned, did Thomas Garcia. He's definitely got that fire well and truly stoked. And I don't think, I mean, the way that at the moment Martin Hemmingson in the second of the two hypercars, we've got no Scuderia.
Oh, I think we're going to have a move actually. Timotej Andonovski looking for a way through on B32 Racing. He's going to do it down into Abbey as well. He got a fantastic run out of Clubber Corner, and that one was for position. So Timotej Andonovski, one of the drivers who wasn't able, or I should say one of the teams that had to start towards the back of the grid, working their way up the order, and Timotej Andonovski now into that LMP2 field.
Yeah, just with Marcel Sinsik at the moment from Vargas Sim Racing, having got past the 166 ID SimSport Porsche. He comes flying through into Cops. He's got a very comfortable lead over the 334 of Max Scholten from Fair Racing Team, the Dutch crew. And he's now absolute full commitment from Marcel Sinsik going through Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell. Absolutely planted it. He did very much a textbook. And to be honest with you here, Yusuf, he's not that far behind the number 80 of Omicron Sim Racing of Thomas Garcia. Garcia's got away, but not as much as maybe a lot of people might have expected. But Hemmingson is now closing on Max Scholten, and so we could see, and I'm looking at the lap times, Hemmingson's absolutely blitzing at the moment. His last lap was a 1:45.3 dead. That's incredible pace, and that puts him to 1.7 seconds a lap concurrently slower at this particular moment than Thomas Garcia, who has got the fastest lap in hypercar at the minute, a 1:44.370. So Martin Hemmingson has cranked the volume, in the words of Spinal Tap, up to number 11 in that number 10 Pin Sim Drillers Esports hypercar at the moment.
Well, he's actually just got past Max Scholten and say his new personal best of the race of 45.0, so he's gone 2 seconds quicker than Thomas Garcia now. Thomas Garcia still has the fastest lap of the race of a 44.3, but he just does not seem to have the consistency to keep up with that pace. And Martin Hemmingson, remember how we talked about that gap being 14 seconds? Well, it's 10.5 seconds now. And I also have some good news for any Mugen sim racing fans out there, because David Kolaksai has been able to find a way through on the 007, yes, the 007 Pro Sim car, and is now up into P5 in the LMP2 class.
I'm not at all surprised. Excuse me, our little dog here just had a little bit of a moment as people just walked past the window. Bless him. So we've got an official GTR 24H mascot, my dog, at the minute, so bless him. But yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting how these drivers really are pushing like crazy. You can just see now that's Marcel Sinsik now making his way through traffic. He's just got past the number 63 car on that particular moment in time, and that was, I believe, that was the viaduct. That's the bright orange Corvette that he's just got past, the number 63. So Viaductin, I believe, and they had a retirement last time out at Indianapolis. So they've really got to start working hard, and the way that Sinsik is just absolutely dealing with this traffic, and just watch out, because he's absolutely threading the eye of the needle. He's just got past one of the Ferraris a little bit further down the order, and now Martin Hemmingson, you can now see he's got Sinsik in sight. Now this is the sign that Hemmingson needed to go for it. He thought, well, if I can get up to the LMP2 leader, that's incredible pace. We expected, I did say that we wouldn't expect it to be too long before Martin Hemmingson was going to close on Marcel Sinsik from Vargas Sim Racing, as now Sinsik trying to get past the 717 of Unison Racing, going through the twisty stuff here, and he's got the 404 of Glam Racing not too far behind, and that's both the GT3 cars. Also, Pescara ADG, in the meantime, is now in that train as Hemmingson absolutely floors it and flies his way past the McLaren 720S GT3 going into, and that was through Woodcote and Lovefield, and then into Cops. He's absolutely absolutely fully committed. And then I've also just seen that the 334 of their racing teams, Max Scholten, trying to make his way through on back marker traffic. And this is now really, I thought it was going to be probably within the first 45 minutes. That's within the first half an hour that we are already going through marker traffic as a repeat of Indianapolis there.
Yeah, and I was riding on board with Martin Hemmingsen when he cut through the field on the old start-finish straight, and now look at that, he is on to the back of Marcel Ginchik, and up ahead you can see Thomas Garcia making his way through Club Corner. But as you mentioned, we are at that half an hour point, so we're going to be heading into a short commercial break, and when we're back, I have a feeling Martin Hemmingsen is going to be very close to our hypercar leader of Thomas Garcia. Don't go anywhere.
The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Film Volt 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, MotorVision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone. I'm still Yusuf bin Sahel, still joined by Alex Goldschmidt. And Alex, when we left, Martin Hemmingsen was about 8 seconds behind Thomas Garcia. And now, well, he is 1.1 seconds behind. We thought he'd need maybe an hour, but he's done it in half an hour, right up to the back of not just, his class leader, but this is the overall race leader as well.
Oh my goodness. We knew that it was going to be quick, and I said if Hemmingsen or Cynic was going to be put in that car, what was going to happen? They were going to fly. You could put Jerome Creekle. He probably wouldn't have been able to have got that, but Jerome, we know, is consistent in the number 10. But yeah, you put someone like Hemmingsen, who showed blistering pace in the Nightfall at Indianapolis last time out. We saw that in spades at Indy between him and Cynic, that they were literally the Demolition Man team in the hypercar class, and once again they've managed to get that done. I'm absolutely astounded, Yusuf, if I'm completely honest, buddy.
It's almost like a cleaning product advert. Do you need this grime destroyed? Well, in this case, is there a large gap between two cars that you want destroyed? We'll use our new product, Henry Sinick / Martin Hemmingsen. Your gap will be destroyed in a matter of minutes.
No, bang, and the gap is gone. Sorry, it just really needed, drivers like that to try and go for it. And it's just absolutely ridiculous how quick that car has been. I think if that's anything to go by, Yusuf, I think the writing could be on the wall.
We thought the same, though, at Indianapolis, but then we saw Pin Sim drillers, sometimes we say they're so far ahead that they could have a little tea party. Well, in Indianapolis cases, they were so far ahead that they took a trip to Narnia, returned, and then caught back up to Omicron Sim Racing, overtook Omicron. Omicron then spun a lap later trying to keep up, and Omicron ended up finishing third. So the question now is, when do Pin Sim drillers pull the pin? When do they decide, okay, we've had enough of sitting behind Omicron, we're now just going to, pass? Or do we see something like in Indianapolis where, they didn't really push too hard, they just wanted to slowly build up a gap, not push the tires, not push the car at all? Is this the point where Pin Sim drillers say, okay, we back off for now?
I don't think they're going to back off. They want to extend that gap. Pit stop windows. It's going to be rather interesting how the likes of Pin Sim, Omicron, how they're going to react. What is their strategy? We don't know that, because the teams will never give everything away in their arsenal, because if they do so, they give a golden opportunity for those teams to go, maybe it could be the case that these drivers want to show their possibility of a huge, the way that things are going, Garcia is I cannot believe how quickly they've made this gap up. It's just ridiculous, Yusuf. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
And you can see Garcia's pushing. I'm still riding on board with Martin Hemmingsen, and you can see Garcia's back end just stepping out ever so slightly on the exit of Cops, the corner. And I'm scared, I can see that there are other drivers within a second of each other. Pro Sim still within a second of David Colaxai, Matt Webb within a tenth of B32 Racing. But I just have a feeling, I have an inkling of a feeling that the second I look away, Thomas Garcia is going to get overtaken by Martin Hemmingsen. So I am staying on board with Martin Hemmingsen. You hear that, Pin Sim drillers? I'm not leaving your car until you get past the number 80 of Omicron Sim Racing. But we talk about how quickly Pin Sim drillers have closed this up, and now we'll just see when they want to pull the trigger. Something else I'm kind of interested on seeing while I'm riding on board with Martin Hemmingsen is the different approach into corners, because what I think I'm noticing is Thomas Garcia trying to take a much wider entry, and you can see Martin Hemmingsen taking a much tighter approach into the corners, and just having confidence in the car's ability to just power out.
Yeah, that's very much the case. I think in some respects you're going to have it where there are drivers that are going to be consistent, Yusuf, and just go for that sort of like metronomic rate. But then you've got drivers like Hemmingsen. They will not want to stand still. They will want to keep pushing, keep moving forward. They'll nail every apex. They'll put the power down as early as possibly can to get those rear tyres to grip on that car. And especially that helps with trying to get the aero up to its maximum potential on that McLaren Senna GTR. And, it's a track-focused vehicle. It is not a road-going car by any sense of the imagination. The amount of development that McLaren have done into that car just shows how much of an animal it is. And, they've got respective, every car gets developed. And one of the good things is that by the pure blistering speed of Sinick and Hemmingsen at Pin Sim Drillers Esports, they have really been able to master that McLaren rather early in this season. And just by Hemmingsen's pace, by getting to Garcia within half an hour, having started all the way down, I cannot believe I'm saying this again, from P28 on the grid to fly up to nearly first. That's impressive. I think that's alien-esque. That car has been flying to Narnia. It's not been sent. It's been flying to Narnia. That thing should have wings coming out of its side skirts.
Here's a move. He's going to go down the inside, down into the loop. And Thomas Garcia, when the traffic approached, Martin Hemmingsen was ready to pounce. And just like that, bang, the gap is gone. And then bang, the lead is gone as well.
Well, massive moment for that is the WOSR car. It's flipped, it's rolled. Oh my goodness me, that was drama for the number 51 WOSR car that was coming into, I believe that was Stowe Corner, and the car went off into the barriers down the straightaway. That was a lucky escape.
I didn't quite catch that one, Alex, so you're going to have to break it down, not just for myself, but maybe for some of our radio listeners as well.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, the WOSR car was coming through. It was coming down the hangar straight, and literally the car went sideways, into the left-hand barrier. It then pinball ricocheted over the other side of the circuit, hit the barriers again. It then rolled twice and did a 720, and they are still running. That was a hefty hit for WOSR iZone Performance. That has cost them some time and also cost them on their strategy, because that now really does not give them an opportunity to breathe. And in many respects, that was Jordi San Andres that was behind the wheel of that car. So I'm not too sure if there was a moment for that vehicle. However, they're still running P3 in their class at the moment, so a very lucky escape in this early stage of the race.
Well, it was bizarre, isn't it? Because when you looked at it, it was almost as if Jordi San Andres just turned to the left. What I did notice was that there wasn't an LMP2 car lapping him, so I just wondered maybe there was a rather big netcode issue. So when the LMP2 car moved across the track, 100 meters up the road, maybe there was an issue and it turned across Jordi San Andres. That's a possible idea. Either that or there was, there isn't anything else to explain unless his steering wheel disconnected momentarily.
Who knows on that front? Only the team will know, but the good thing is he now comes through onto the hangar straight, coming down out of the corner, and is now this time around completely comes into his own. Nice braking on the outside of the corner, turns it in neatly through into Stowe. The back end starting to slide, but Jordi San Andres actually keeping a hold of that, and then through into Club before the next double right, and you can just see that car has got, I think, probably a little bit of superficial wounding there, Yusuf, but it's still going along strong at the minute.
Yeah, and that is very good news for WOSR, because they look like a big shunt into the Armco on the hangar straight. So thankfully they're still able to go, and even if it is a little bit of damage, they can hopefully get that fixed in the pits without costing them too much time. I'm riding on board right now with Adam Serej in the 41 GT3 car, and that is Mugen Sim Racing, as they look to close in onto Thibaut Malbrun in the 26, only half a second behind, and actually almost had a bit of a moment with an LMP2 car as they try to pull out of the slipstream on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, so I can't believe it though. Martin Hemmingsen just absolutely, he's like the cat that's got the Cheshire cream.
It's 4 seconds.
I cannot believe that.
He's going almost 3 seconds a lap quicker than Thomas Garcia. That is absolutely incredible. David Kolexai also not too far behind Toan Loa in the LMP2 car, and that is, I'm just checking, that is the 22 on the 15, Mugen Sim Racing closing down the Deuces Motorsport Club car.
Yeah, so that in many respects does not, it's one of those things that they're now having to try and sort things out and just keep themselves moving forward in any way, shape that they can. I'm speechless with what's transpired so far, Yusuf. I really am. I think, you look at it. Also, there's been quite a few moves up the order in the LMP2 class. And one of the things is that Matthias Pedersen from DSR Nightmare and Matt Webb for E-Team Brit are on the same lap as the leaders. They are moving up the class quite considerably, and they're running concurrently on pace as well at the moment. So that's where they are making inroads. Max Spooner admitted to me for E-Team Brit that they want to try and go for a top 6 in the class, and Matt Webb was one of their standout performers last time out at Indianapolis.
Yeah, and actually when we speak about the fastest drivers in the LMP2 class, of course, Marcel Chinchik in the 117 Vargas Sim Racing car, but then also the number 17 of Pinsim drillers, Timotej Andonovski, currently up at 2P7, and as you mentioned, Felipe Barreto in that 57 car, setting a 147.6, matching the pace of Marcel Chinchik. So they're really flying up the order, and now Felipe Barreto, he's actually he's only a few tenths behind Jeff Closer, and he could potentially have a look on this lap.
He could very much do so. And it's one of those things that the drivers can really sort of try and do what they can, and just to close up gaps, even if it's in increments, Yusuf, that's where all the gains can be made. Because if someone reacts and knows that they've got to make a pit stop, they've got to try and hustle that car as much as possible. And here at Silverstone, it's easy to do it, but it's a lot more difficult when you have backmarker traffic to contend with.
Something else I've just spotted by riding on board with Felipe Barreto, and I noticed this from Martin Hemmingsen as well, and I'm going to assume Marcel Chinchik's doing this, is the different lines that you can take in Luffield. I think we talked about it as he has a massive moment through Copse corner. Up ahead, Jeff Closer has to run wide through Copse as both prototype cars have moments. But we talked about the different lines that you can take through Luffield and not lose too much time by taking those different lines. What we're seeing from the likes of Felipe Barreto and Martin Hemmingsen is they take these much tighter lines all the way through Luffield. They don't let the car out wide and then try to point and squirt it back out. They hold it tight, and they have faith in the amount of downforce and grip that these prototype cars have available to them.
Yeah, the prototype cars, obviously we have both the Eureka 07 and then the Ligier JSP7, two very different machines in their own right, both under 950 kilos, both running the Gibson 4.2 litre V8. So the power to weight ratio is pretty good, but the aerodynamics on that car, that is literally a single seater with a roof on it, a bit like the Audi R18 Ultra when the new LMP1 regulations came back in 2011. So yeah, I mean, these cars are like absolute rocket ships. I still remember when LMP2 was open cockpit.
That is going a while back, and yeah, Felipe Barreto, he's sticking with Jeff Closer, but every time the back markers come up, he seems to drop a little bit further behind. Marcel Chinchik, only 10 seconds behind Thomas Garcia in the hypercar class. He's doing a fantastic job, and to be honest, right now, you can see a world where Marcel Chinchik actually finishes ahead of Thomas Garcia by the end of the stint.
Yeah, so on to lap, we're on sort of around about 20 or so laps completed, and just the pace that Martin Hemmingsen, again, he's not holding back at all. He is just wanting to extend that gap.
Oh yeah.
So, just to really get the opportunity to keep that pit stop going, that pit stop window opportunity going, and giving himself the chance of having that gap. So if he needs to hand over to Henry Sinek, he can make that as quickly as possible and not costing.
Oh, here comes Adam Serege. He's gone down the inside of Thibaut Malbrun into the corner, but he'll run wide, and Thibaut Malbrun will reclaim the position, currently battling for P3 in the GT3 class.
Yeah, GT3 as always ultra competitive at this particular moment in time, and if I'm honest with you, I'm not at all surprised that you got the likes of 717 Unison Racing with Nikolai Beruzkov, Lee Russell doing a great job. Obviously, Callum Wilson, you spoke to last night, he said that they're hoping to have a good race this time around. We knew that they were in the wars last time. amongst others, and then Thibaut Malbrun in the number 26 One Move Esports car, doing a good job in P3 in that class at the moment. They're about 2 to 3 laps off of the leaders, but that battle is starting to intensify, and I can see that there could probably be a few more fireworks in GT3, let alone what's happening in the 3 other classes.
Yeah. Also keeping an eye up ahead, Timotej Andonovski now within a second of the Pro Sim car, running about a second a lap quicker. Having just put in a 49.5 last time around. Not one of the quickest on tracks, but with the traffic and the likes, it does make it difficult. Giuseppe De Fuoco also has closed in to Luka Frlic. This is for P4 in the GTE class as they make their way down the Hanger Straight. Giuseppe De Fuoco, he has a little look to the inside of Stowe, but he's too far back to really have a lunge.
Yeah, I think it's about, if you're a car length and a half behind, you've got a possibility of if you've got that window of opportunity.
Ooh, Giuseppe De Fuoco just hit one of the LMP2 cars.
Oh,
that might be a penalty coming the way of Musto. To be honest, I can't fault him too much because the LMP2 car came in front of him, moved across and braked a little bit early because of the 67 Glam Race, or pardon me, not the 67 Glam Racing, the 67 Volante racing car, and as a result Giuseppe De Fuoco kind of had nowhere to go but to tap the rear end. So I'm interested to see how the stewards will deem that one.
Yeah, that's going to be... That's a 50-50, really. I think at the end of the day, that's why we have race control in prominence on that front, because at the end of the day, we are just commentators. We can give our own personal opinions, but sometimes it's always best to leave it to them, and we just look at it from a neutral perspective. But yeah, sometimes with this backmarker traffic, you know, Musto could possibly have a penalty coming. We are awaiting from race control to make an expedient decision on that.
Yeah, now keeping an eye on Timotej Andonovski. 8 tenths behind a Pro Sim, and again you can see Andonovski taking a tighter line than the Pro Sim car, and I do think that is, at least in the LMP2 and the hypercar class, the way to go through Luffield, just by holding it tighter, or at least you know, some of the front runners are able to make it work, to the likes of Andonovski, Felipe Barreto and Martin Henningsen.
Yeah, very much the case. I mean, Woodcote and Luffield, you know, you can get as tight to the barriers as humanly possible, but sometimes that doesn't always work out to your favour. And there are times when I've seen, like, literally people be like that close to the barrier at Luffield. It's just ridiculous how much speed you can rack up coming out of Woodcote, and when you're pushing down the throttle going into Luffield, you then got to set yourself up for Copse Corner, and Copse, we know, is pretty much taken. You're going in there at full throttle, you're lifting off, you're not braking going into Copse, so it is the ultimate test of commitment, as well as having to go through Abbey and Farm Curve off of the International Pit Straight.
Yeah, exactly so, and let's see when we can be finding a move to take Timotej Andonovski up one extra position. Currently Pro Sim running in 5th place in the LMP2 class. It's a good showing from them so far. Last time out they were able to secure P6 back at Indianapolis, so going one place better at the moment.
Yes, definitely. And this is where the real sort of chapters start to unfold in this story here on the Film Vault 12-hour of Silverstone. A big thank you to, once again, all our viewers watching with us at the moment on ESTV. Also Amazon Fire and Roku today, as well as those listening on the official GTR24H audio podcast that we've got running live at the moment, and as well as the live timing. You can actually head to the website, click on there. You can also click on the spotters guide as well, so head to gtr24h.org for all those relevant links.
gtr24h.org, where you can find all of your information. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the timing towers, as I have a couple of technical difficulties on my end, Alex, so you're going to have to take this one for the time being.
Right, well, it looks like the pit stop phases have started. Andonovski has now pitted, and that's at the end of lap number 22. So Andonovski now pitting, but still at the moment, that means, well, one of the big things is that at the end of the day, this is where the drivers now, depending on how much fuel they've put in the car, have some drivers and teams decided to go for a very, very short first stint. That's around 45 minutes of the race completed so far, and there are some drivers that are going to extend that stint further. Some might have brinned the tank, decided, right, we're going to stick with this driver for the first 2 stints. There's a minimum allocated driver time allowed per driver. And it's also about managing the tyres. Are you going to double stint the tyres? Have the tyres not degraded badly enough for you to have the opportunity to run for a second stint and still be very, very much competitive all the way through that second stint? And that's rather important there, Yusuf, isn't it?
Yeah, and we talk about the strategy aspect that you can be bringing into the race, double stinting your tyres, and sometimes not even putting in that full tank of fuel just because you do want to double stint. And there's so many different aspects that you can bring it in to a play, and with the rain expected as well, you're going to have to be bringing that aspect through to your strategy as well. When do you expect the rain to be coming in? When do you expect to be switching over tyres? Because you don't want to have to pay up for a set of dry tyres 10-15 minutes before it's time to put on the wets.
And even if the rainfall still starts to come in and the drivers are on hot, basically the temperatures on the slick tyres are rather hot, and it's just one of those things where I think I've just heard that Giuseppe Fuoco is now going into the pits.
Yeah, he's on the back of Felipe Barreto. Not of Felipe Barreto. I believe he is on the rear end of one of the Volante racing cars. I think that's the 67.
Yeah, that is the case, and he's not. Yeah, he's literally just right on the back bumper of the 67. It's been a lot cleaner, I must admit, here for the 67. That's got Luca Furlich behind the wheel at the moment, and De Fuoco has taken the position away. So that's a good move there by the number 53. That puts them 4th in the GTE class, which is still being led by Daniele Primavera. In the number 54 sister BMW. That's really good to see. From there, behind Furlich, you've got Eros Masculi in the number 7 Pescara ADG car. They're now up into quite a considerable higher position.
Got a move in the LMP2 class as Jeff Closer moves to the inside to defend from Prosim, who have closed in the gap massively. Timotej Andonovski is a further second back, and now Prosim will look down the inside, but they get their nose absolutely shut. Heading down into a club corner. 3-way battle for what is P6 in the LMP2 class.
Yeah, so that just goes to show how competitive this field is. They are not holding off. They're not holding back. I did say this, Yusuf, that it was going to be a case that they were going to try and do what they could in order to move forward and try and push that envelope. And some drivers are able to do it, some drivers having to bide their time and maybe try and undercut in the first set of pit stops here at Silverstone for the 12 hours here on the EEWC.
Yeah, Timotej Andonovski just got a really good run. He's going to move down to the inside, heading into a Brooklands corner, and he will be able to get the job done as well as up ahead. That is Jeff Closer losing the back end. He's going to spin around on the exit of Brooklands and lose 2 positions in one go, which means that Timotej Andonovski moves up into 6th place.
Well, that just goes to show another mistake happening within the first hour of this race. And to be completely honest with you, Yusuf, I'm not surprised. These drivers are under pressure from all angles, and it's not just battling for position in their own class. They're having to watch out for what is happening with the drivers that are lapping them. And that's where you're going to find that some drivers will really revel under that pressure, and some drivers will be caught unawares.
And it's not even just thinking about that as well, but your own strategy. You're constantly being given information by your race engineers about what you need to call, which tyre you're putting too much wear on, how much fuel you need to save, when you need to lifting codes, when you can start to be that little bit more aggressive. There's so much information that's coming in, which just makes this such a different kettle of fish to, the likes of qualifying, where it's, all right, head on out, bang in 2 laps, come back in, we'll put more fuel in, and you can go back out and bang out a few more laps.
Yeah, it looks like there's there were three investigations that were currently ongoing. Two have only been processed, but no further action taken by race control. So we may find out very, very soon what is happening regarding any further penalties that might be coming. But to be completely honest with you, within the first hour so far, Yusuf, there haven't been that many incidents that have incurred penalties for teams out there at the minute.
Yeah, not too many penalties at all, and we did see that one with one of the Musto cars. It was the second Musto car of the 54, or pardon me, of the 53, because 54 was leading the class, which was onto one of the lapping LMP2 cars, which we're still waiting for a verdict on, I believe, unless it was one of the two where no action has been taken. So we'll see whether there are any penalties to come, but, you know, as you mentioned, this first hour, it's seen its fair share of battling. We've seen some great moves that coming through in all classes. We've seen that fantastic charge from Martin Hemmingsen, but no penalties have come through as of yet. And on that note, we are at the 1 hour point, so we're going to be heading into a short commercial break, and when we're back we'll be bringing you another half an hour of uninterrupted action from the Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone.
The 2021 Endurance E-Racing World Championship Round 2, Film Vault 12 Hours of Silverstone, is brought to you in partnership with ESTV, Leak Gaming, SimLab, Motorvision.tv, Global Flix, Racing for Green, and AMD Ryzen Radeon.